So, hello, thank you for coming. I am Mr. Sanchis, Mateo Sanchis. I'm a PhD teacher here at ASU. This is my third year. And I've been running since running was only for weirdos. Now it's super normalized, but back then, like those ladies from my old small towns, like, what's going on? Why are you running? It's like, are you running away from someone? I didn't plan to show this picture, it just happened to happen for the university week. And if there's something that we can agree on, everybody in this room can agree on, is that running is absolutely horrible. Running all my life, I still feel the same. Okay? There's two main reasons, or two only reasons for you to run, is either chase your own food, which you don't have to do anymore, you can go to numbing, or avoiding becoming food. Humans are luckily out of the food chain, so the two main reasons for you to run are gone. So why should you run? You just take the escalator, and then the elevator, and then take the bus, and go to the school so you can sit down all day long. But still, who's gonna disagree with me, at least from the coaching context, that it feels really good afterwards? That's it. So they say you might regret when you don't train. I guess it goes for training in general, but you absolutely won't regret after training, unless you like got lost in the forest and it's like UV minus 20 or got injured. Okay. Connecting to what you were saying before, sometimes the track and field athletes like to brag on your punishment is my actual sport. Or a couple of years ago, to like athletes on Twitter, I think it was a football player in soccer saying, "Man, I think football is the worst sport because of this and this and this reason." And then an Olympic athlete for 100-meter dash, it's like, "Bro, did you ever train for 4 years for a race that lasts less than 10 seconds? And that's it." So, what I'm going to share with you is what I started applying last year, which was my second year here, after noticing that the stamina, both in our PE students in general and in our students athletes, was like not as good as it could. And I don't have like really great analysis on how to, but I assume that the weather is not inviting, the type of students that we have might be like maintained in a bubble of overprotection a little bit. When they were presenting about the primary stages of skills, they were like 6 years, 7 years, and I was thinking, that's half my 8th grade. And then that's half like my 7th grade, like catching a tennis ball, like bouncing 25 times with the wrong hand, is like, I guess we could be there like already. So this might not be super useful for you if you're not actual coaches and PE teachers, but maybe, are things like very tiny details that you can apply right away and try if they work for you. They did for me, unluckily, as you know. It was supposed to last the whole year, but then half the year like went off the trash because of the COVID. We were supposed to start, and I mentioned that, to finish with the race. We couldn't happen, but I think I set the basis for that. So, okay. And another way that I realized that the basics were not in place was the first year. I low-key overdid it because I coached under 15 football, and then I coached under 19 basketball, and then I assisted under 19 football. I definitely overdid it, and I was looking forward to those seasons because based on what I've seen in PE, I thought, okay, this is gonna get better. And then I went to the practice like, this got only marginally better. So I decided to tone it down. Last year, I was supposed to coach under 19 football girls, which never happened because of the virus. This year, I'm gonna try again and coach that one. Hopefully it will happen. But what I did is just basically started training the whole school. I'm from Spain. I never got this type of teacher, but I've seen that type of teacher teaching my older sisters, smoking, or maybe reading the newspaper, like giving a lot of importance to the practice. So what happened there is that when you finish that type of practice and you go home and your parents ask you, what did you do in PE? We just run. But what did you learn? What kind of running did you do? What did you gain from it? So what I want to do, I want to, cross the type of teachers with an arrow. Luckily they're like mostly gone. And then move into the main slogan, which is like designed to sell apparel stuff, but it really, really works for running. From we just run to whatever you have to do, just do it. Okay, so I'm the kind of PE teacher that if I have 3 blocks or 4 blocks and I'm running at the beginning and I'm working out during the class, I'll do it with every single class. But then I realized it was time to change, and a lot of times I'm teaching like this right now. And it had an impact, an immediate visual impact on the students. It's not needed in here. I think they give the value to PE, which is required. Sometimes PE has like a little less value. It's like, we're just here to have fun. So it gives the value back. And at the same time, I realized a byproduct of this is that I didn't engage that much in the practices at the beginning, which allowed me to see the whole practice, to take my time, to slow down my pace. And maybe I'm missing that one-to-one conversation with the student when we're doing something, that like really precise feedback and immediate. But then it gave me like a bigger scope at the beginning of the season. I still like play sometimes. I mean, my knees are black from that field, from the artificial field. And then they see the difference right away. And actually, when you switch back to your shorts and your t-shirt, it's even more meaningful. So they know now that I mean business when I look like this, and I mean business even more when I change. Okay, so when you're running, or actually when you're training for anything, the first thing that you need is a goal. The other day, my wife, she just joined the River Tower gym, and she told me, what should I do, this or this? And I asked her, why's your goal? So what do you want to achieve? And for me, this was a win-win, because I did this in 2019, and to my surprise, the event wasn't as big as we could. I mean, we're not a big community, but like the attendance was not as good as it could. So it was going to be good for the event, and then good as a carrot on a stick for my PE content. I'm gonna keep using this image of a carrot on a stick, so keep it in there. Did you know about this? I guess most of you do. So it's a race that ISU organizes by the end of the school year in the national park, and it involves like either the smaller, medium, or larger loops. And then I'm a big picture person, so if I understand what are we doing, how we're gonna do it, and why, it will help me thrive better through everything. So I was coaching them, and at the same time I was teaching them the basic training principles. No joke, this year I got the 10th graders, and right off the bat I asked one of them, I asked them to design a first session to train a marathon, and she told me, I'm gonna run 42 kilometers, but really, really slow. It's like, that's not how it works. It doesn't matter how slow you go, if you're not used to running and then you run 42 kilometers, it's gonna be deadly sore by tomorrow and then hating running for the next weeks. So, I don't know if you've probably seen this before. SPORT stands for Specificity, Progressive, Overload, Reversibility, and Tedium. If you know the meaning of those words, you can link how they apply to the athletics field. So if you want to run, you need to be specific. You will be training through running. And then the overload spins off into frequency, intensity, time, and time. How many times a week, how hard, for how long, and for how long the rest, and also what time. If I want to run to both hands, to a race that involves like orienteering and going up and down mountains, I'm not going to train in the national park, which is absolutely flat. If I want to get a personal best in a 5K, I'm not going to be running in the mountains. I'm not mainly in the mountains. And one thing that I found interesting, once I brought back from my college years, is that tedium back then meant doing the same thing over and over. You gotta repeat the same thing to an extent. If you think about it, running is repeating the same motion over and over to get better. Now it's completely the opposite. I guess it's because of the social media times. It's like, make sure you don't get bored of doing the same thing over and over and you have enough variation. I was like, what? This is like 180 shift from what I learned. But what I did is just adopted both things. And I tell the kids, make sure you do the same thing over and over. It's easy. If you have the training session designed and then you hit the fitness room, you just access it, get it done, you know where the things are, that saves time. At the same time, if you do that for like 3 weeks in a row, it's going to be super boring. So at one point you need to start adding some variation. Any questions so far? No. So this is done, the routines are done. I'm going to show you how it looks like. Mental and moral on lifestyle, it's a work in progress, but I'm going to share with you once it's done. So I'm teaching the students that I have right now in front of me, but at the same time, and I mentioned this to them, I'm teaching the adult that you're going to become. So if physical activity doesn't become something that's a meaningful part of your life, that's okay. Because if I give you the tools on what you have to do to get healthier, to train yourself, if I gave you the tools on figuring out how to do it, if I gave you enough reasons or tools to find your own reasons on why to do it, then you will take an educated decision. At least you know the consequences. And I told them, and I insist on this, I'm judgmental because I happen to be in this context where I'm your teacher. But I don't go in my life, oh, you should be doing this more, you should be eating better, you should be sleeping better. I judge because it's my job. I get paid for it. If I don't, I'm not your personal coach. You do you, and I'm fine with that. Some of them struggle, but most of them manage to accept this duality of I'm in front of you, teaching you, but at the same time I'm worried about who you're going to become. So P doesn't have to be always that fun. And at the same time, this knowing the big picture, where you can teach them about anatomy, you can teach them about what Kevin was mentioning about like mindfulness and relaxation, is things that you can link to the IB PhD criteria, which is not only performing, you have to know, you have to be able to plan and reflect on your planning, and it gives you a lot of freedom to do, like to expand your content on top of the performance. So last week, to the classes that went with me, the first 6 months of the last year, I designed this, which is, I put together this, which is what we did. The activities that we did last year. Actually, you remind me one, the team labs, which I think are very important, and it's missing here. I got it, and I asked them to put it together. What do you do? What it means, and then which zone. This was a little bit trickier also because it's orientative. It's not like scientific. And the outcomes that we get. They got this like 95% right. And it's basically you have, for example, running by distance. I'm going to do a 5K. The distance is over, you're done. Running by time. Running technique, which is running better. Sprints, 4x4s, reaction time. And then I gave them like a teaser of what they, like a suggestion. We didn't run on rough surfaces, not that much. Or real fartlek with your team or on your own, or trail running, going in the mountains. I'm still waiting for the moment where I'm final student when I'm running the mountain. But they have the hint. If they're curious about it, they can do it. Please let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay. So at the beginning, the main thing and this is what I'm gonna give you the tiny ideas that you can steal from me, is running by time. So that student that wants to do a marathon, first you need to find out that you can run 2-3 hours depending on your estimated time. And the way we do it is start with 5 minutes. Can you run 5 minutes? Can you do I call it the grandma jog or grandpa jog for 5 minutes? Like at least know what. Then let's do it. And I asked them to count laps, and the thing is, do the same thing over and over and over, but then add tiny differences that keep it engaging. And at the same time, I don't know if you ever run a race, probably most of you did. The excitement when you get the results and then you see like all the official times and the pace and who beat who. This is a lot of work for me. Every time we run, I put this together. So these are real results. Not only that, but I calculate the pace for the first guy, the pace for the first girl, and also the pace at the bottom. So we have kind of like an average for the class. So it's a lot of work for me at the beginning, but it pays off. This is what I'm talking about. Pace, pace, pace. Because if you ask them to run and then they don't have the results, it's like, we just run. We didn't know what happened. Then the first variation that I add, we're gonna count laps. This is the line. If you don't cross this line, you got 10 laps. And then if you cross this line, you got 11 laps. And you need to be really, really tough with that one. Also, not to cheat. This is a cone. You need to respect the cone. And you are who you are, what you are when nobody's watching. Because at the beginning, I'm watching them all the time, you're running in the gym, but then you've seen them, like running across the school. So, that's tough for them, and this is tough for me. But once we get there is when we start running by distance, which is going outside, which they don't get to ask how much is left. It's up to you. It's like when I'm hiking with my son, and it's like, Dad, how much is left? Like, if you keep that pace, it's gonna take like till forever. And something that I also think, and you might disagree with me, you need to be really strict as well on grading performance. Last year I started doing it by doing the big test. We did it a couple of times, they know how it goes, now it's gonna be graded. But what if I really try my best and then I get a low score? Then the next time, if you keep trying your best, it's gonna get better. Oh, but what if I'm not a naturally talented athlete? Well, it's the same answer. Do your best, and then it's gonna get better. Some people are naturally gifted for math. I'm not one of them. Some people have tutoring outside for math, which might be equivalent to having volleyball practice and getting stronger just because of that. So don't be afraid of graded performance. Then you could encourage healthy competitiveness, but ultimately, obviously, you gotta compare to yourself. So if this was the big test results, I'll print it and I'll post it, but I'll highlight in green people, no matter if it's like first, second, or third, they may be like the 15th of the school, but the improvement is trending way more positive than the first one. And you mentioned that. If you're already that strong, it's harder to improve. If you at the bottom, it sucks, but your room for improvement is bigger. I think I'm going a little bit slow and fast at the same time. Okay, so some ideas that you can steal. We started running 5 minutes in the gym, and then we increased 1 minute every month. So we did 5 in September, October we were gonna run 6, November we're gonna run 7, and so on and so forth. Then we started, we did a half lap, and then we started including obstacles. So we put them like this, then the other way around, then one on top of the other, then some stuff that you get to dodge. So that way, they kind of like want to reach the obstacle to dodge it faster than before. It's like, again, the carrot on a stick. We did the team laps, which is like teams where everybody's supporting each other. You don't go more than 1 meter away of the next person. We did relay laps. You have one student running 1 lap with a partner, and then you do the next lap and the other one rests. And let's see if that way, combined, you can get more laps. We did it with a teammate, so 2 people with similar pace running at the same time. And I think this is the thing that I'm the most proud of. I don't know if you know sprint in indoor cycling. It's basically 2 guys in opposite ends of the track, and they have to chase each other. That went wild. They were asking to do that. Some of them were not. Some of them like, it's hard, but still they were running away from something. So it's like, that's like a biggest carrot on the stick, because you both at the same time winning and losing. So that was really, really good. It worked really well. We just got the high jump mat, and I don't tell them anything. Okay. So some of them roll, some of them just like jump and land on the mat and then keep going. Some of them just like run on top because they want to get as many laps as possible. So it looks like it's the same thing, it's just running, but by doing tiny differences, it doesn't feel like running anymore, and at the end they have the habit. Okay, and also this taught us to turn challenges into opportunities. The most obvious one, well, when we started in the gym and you run by time, it's like, okay, 5 minutes. This kind of sucks, and there's not a lot of like running by time in track and field. I mean, I can think of like a 24 hours run, but it's like a really slow pace. When we run outside and it's windy and it's getting colder, it's like they appreciate running inside. So you already treat them. And then stretch training. I was in Panama. I was getting ready for my first 100 miles race, and the previous month we went to compete in El Salvador. So I have fairly like hard training routine, and they told me, "You're not gonna run in El Salvador at night. Sorry." So I started. That's the moment I started running on the stairs, and then I started embracing the stairs. So when it's too cold, I think we have a policy of like minus 25 degrees, and I think it's 100 and something for pollution. We do the stairs, and it's the same thing. When we do the stairs, they're asking to run in the gym. Can we? I'll do a lot of laps, so please no stairs.
You haven't done that yet this year, have you?
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's the COVID. I'm waiting. I'm looking, waiting. And this is also for me. Last semester, we couldn't train. I mean, we didn't have the kids here, so I managed to get my blog in place. So it's another example of how turning something challenging into an opportunity. Okay, something that I also use, obviously, is using example for some professional athletes. My grandma used to say, if they play like ice skating all year long, I'll watch it all year long. You just simply don't have the chance because the main sports take over. Every time I play anything related to running, they are amazed, they love it. And then if you teach them to see beyond like the result, for example, this guy, the power pose. So you're about to run 100 meters, you've been training for 4 years, you want to get yourself pumped up. And then compare that to them. It's like, coach, it's cold. I don't feel like running. I'm tired. Can we just run 4 minutes? It's like, you're doing the complete opposite. There, in this one, we talk about the arm swing for the sprint. And then we oppose it to this Japanese lady. There's a trend of Japanese athletes for some reason not to move the arms at all. I guess they think they save energy, and it works for some of them. So you turn again that this is just running into something a bit more meaningful to see beyond that. And the hustle, this is a 400-meter athlete. The first thing that they compare is the chest. So you just dive into the finish line to win. And then obviously the 150 men. The first time a human run under 2 hours in a marathon. Organizing the thoughts. You're almost done and you're doing great. Okay. Another carrot on the stick, use technology. Mr. Sanchis, you're telling me that I can listen to music during class with my phone? Yes. You're gonna be 10 minutes running by distance? Go ahead and use your own music. They loved it. But by then you already got to hook. And then if you want, already you have your phone, and then you manage to get them download an activity tracker by Strava, I created, this is the field, and then we go through the emergency road, and behind here, and they really like to use technology to see the results beyond my annoying words. And also if you match it with the knowledge that we mentioned before, you might get some of them for good. Okay. This is not necessary. They know and I admit that I'm biased towards running, but at the same time, I get hyped by most sports. When we do football, it's like, Mr. Sanchis, did you do football when you were a kid? When we do badminton, did you do badminton when you were a kid? Because I'm either like really hyped about that, or I'm like really good at faking enthusiasm. It's actually what I get paid for. But I happen to really like running, and that sometimes I use my own experience as a way to get them engaged. Not only when it works well, this was a race that happened in Mansushir. I think I was the only non-Mongolian person in the whole event. And this is the last one for water that we managed to do. So for example, this was a success. But in this one, I was just recovering from pneumonia. I just trained on the treadmill for like weeks. And obviously, you're going to be a teacher. You gotta win. You've been so annoying asking us to run. You gotta win now. But they don't think this is a 10K. And that pace for me is a little bit too fast. And a couple of stories that I talk about this race, like, he absolutely wrecked me. He said that, now he's gone, but so maybe I managed to win next time. But we became friends. I told him, you don't really get to have like runners at your same level that often. So instead of like being grumpy, because he shamed me in front of all my students by beating me, I made friends with this guy and I'm running with him often. Okay, and also don't be afraid of going the extra mile. The example that you mentioned, coach, please, one last shot, please, let me one last shot and I'm gone. And it's not one last shot. And if it is, it's either an air ball, a really crappy last shot, or just like goes to the rim, hits that student's head, she starts crying, the ball goes away, someone else is running behind the ball, she keeps crying even louder. It's like, look, and this happened yesterday, I joke not. I'm here, this is what I told the students, I'm here between 6:15 and 6:30 every single day. You're welcome to come and you can get as many shots as you want, okay? But first we train. And to my disgrace, they actually showed up yesterday at 6:30. I planned to run a 10K on the treadmill, so I cut it half and I told them, I'm cutting my training in half, but I don't mind because you showed up. And then we did a warm-up, we did a bit of like running on the treadmill, and then a training, a body weight training for upper body. We went down, they played a little bit of basketball, I was like, where are those shots? Like 15 minutes they were out of the gym. Where are those shots? Like, I'm too tired, coach. Well, at least you got that taste. So I can tell that especially coaches and PE teachers are like really passionate, and if you can have an impact in 1-2 kids and make that last for good, it's worth your time. And last thing, I think this is the last thing, it's the last slide about running. I'm getting there. Is that yes, the ones complaining are the louder ones, but then you see how, and I've seen that in students in here, they discovered. Because the main sports that we offer here are team sports. Basketball, volleyball, or football. They discover something for themselves. And then you see them. They don't complain, they don't say anything, but they are like grinding, as you said. They found something. So don't let the louder ones distract you from your goal. I didn't win as a plan, but I hope it was.
That was great.
Any questions or suggestions? You're gonna have my link and this presentation in other resources. Still.
One thing I've done that's worked pretty well in PE is I set the timer on the volleyball clock or the basketball clock to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and then I say, oh, I got a little plus or minus. I hit the button and it counts, the counter. And so, okay, we're gonna run every lap you do, counts as one. I'm not keeping track of who's first, who does the most laps, anything, but I'm gonna see which class is the fastest. And so then it's very encouraging. You get your super competitive kids that are like, yeah, let's go, let's go. I tell them, like, I usually set it for 10 minutes. I'll say, like, okay, you got 10 minutes. If you need to stop and walk, you can walk. If you need to get a water, you can. If you want to spend your 10 minutes going to the bathroom, you're not adding anything to your class of solo, you're not helping, but that's your choice. And so it's been really good because it's not a competition. The slow kids are like, oh my gosh, I'm in last place. Because even if they walk and they add 5 to their class total, it's still positive, right? And so that's been really good to get kids running and like working together instead of like, I'm gonna beat you, I'm gonna beat you. And you just tell your competitors, like, I'm not keeping track of who wins and who loses.
I'm absolutely gonna steal that one.
This is awesome.
I'll go to the chart.
I'm up in the other
Guys, so just because you're all here, we have the last session. Then we go quickly to the theater to finish up for 5 or 10 minutes, and then the food is ready. So we're almost there. Thank you for your patience so far. Last session, next door, CD.